So in June of 2022, the Mets drafted Jett Williams, who is a shortstop out of Rockwell Heath High School with the 14th overall pick in the draft. The 19-year-old speedster set minor league baseball on fire this year across low A St. Lucie, high A Brooklyn, and double A Binghamton, slashing .263, .425, .451 with 13 home runs and 45 stolen bases in 534 plate appearances. After the season, the Mets' top prospect won the organization's Minor League Player of the Year award, confidently accepting and saying the following: "I'm going to be here next year, just so you know. I just see myself playing here. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do. That's what we're going to do this offseason. But just so you know, I can see it. If I prepare and do what I need to do in the offseason, I'm going to be here next year." Jett just turned 20 years old this week and has already become a fan favorite throughout the Mets fan base, with his major league debut being highly anticipated soon. Williams is currently ranked as the Mets' number 3 overall prospect via MLB Pipeline, expected to be showcased during 2024 spring training in Port St. Lucie next season. We saw something about this with Francisco Alvarez, I think, last year, where he said, "I'm going to make the majors." And he did. Technically, he didn't really get much of a sample, but Jett's he's at the same age, I would say. Around the same age as when Francisco Alvarez said it, maybe a little bit younger. Do you see Jett Williams in the majors this year?
Probably not. But again, we didn't think we'd see Alvarez the year, but we thought. You'd have a man boner for him. That's a difference. You just had him exactly. Could I see it in September? If his teams again did nothing, I could see it. But if this team's competitive, probably not until the year after. Because again, if you're a competitive team, unless Jeff McNeil, Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty, Lindor all just die, probably not. Two out of those 3 or 5 guys will solidify themselves. McNeil can take your pick. But if this team is also injured as hell, so they have that injury bug, which is possible. But I would say if you're gonna see him and his team is competitive, probably not. But in September, it's all fair game. Again, one injury is one call away. He's not on the 40-man yet, so you would have to make a 40-man roster spot, unlike a couple other prospects. So if he keeps hitting the way and being a productive player down in the minor leagues, you're gonna have to keep an eye on him and be like, all right, how much more? And let's say Jeff McNeil has another bad year, but his record, he's supposed to have a good year this year. Or Ronnie Mauricio doesn't adjust to big league pitching and he needs to potentially go down. There's a way. I just don't see it this year, especially him being 20. Yes, you got Alvarez up here, and Alvarez defensively was better than we all thought. But again, 20 years old. I'm all for rushing guys through. Yes, you've got enough guys in AAA or on the major league roster to play his positions. If all those guys fail and you're like in August and you're not going anywhere, sure, why not? But there are guys on the depth chart ahead of him that would get the call before him.
Frank, Jett Williams, he worked the hype?
We'll see what happens, but I think there certainly is a possibility for Jett Williams, and I'll give you a couple of reasons. Number one, in comparison to Francisco Alvarez, Alvarez's road was much harder because he was a catcher. Because we all agree that the bat was ready, but you can't rush up a catcher because it's such an important defensive position. You have to let him learn how to catch and learn framing and blocking, all this other stuff. He has so many other things that he had to check off before he was ready to get called up. I think with a guy like Jett Williams, his game is much easier to just transfer over to the next level. And the most important part of it is the speed. The way this guy stole, the 45 bases in the minor leagues, that's something that plays at all levels. Because we talk about, okay, now pitchers are a little hard to hit, so your hitting stats might not be as good. But when it comes to speed, that plays anywhere. So I think that he can still make havoc happen on the bases no matter what level he's at. And I think that the most likely route for him to get onto his team is if we see another very, very lackluster, unacceptable year from Jeff McNeil. That's where he slides up, because to me, I think that Jett Williams profiles the second baseman more so than Ronnie Mauricio does. So I think that I would be looking more at, okay, is there a possibility here where if McNeil has no hamstring issues or elbow, here is a bad elbow they don't want to get repaired. So if you have something like that going on, and let's say you have maybe Jett Williams at second, Beatty stinks again, Mauricio's at third, all of a sudden that's your infield. I think that there's a very good chance. And I think that this team, with how much Starling Marte was hurt and things like that, who's stealing bases on this team? Nobody. Lindor, he did some with the new rules, but I think that he could actually fit this team with that speed that it's not too far out that realm of possibility. I think if they, like Aaron said, if they have another June where a lot of guys get hurt and things like that, you definitely could see this guy moving up the ranks pretty quickly and end up on this team. So I don't think it's crazy at all to see him this year.
Man, this guy gets a lot of hype as a first round pick. You know, like they really drafted just a pinch runner. Anyways, it's an exciting player, and I understand it. It's explosive. It's somebody who can really put on a show, I'd say, from if you have this guy batting ninth, possibly, and I understand that his approach is very advanced, I'd say. Obviously, he gets on base a lot. You know, you can get a lot of stolen bases from him with the bigger bases, obviously. I don't see it this year. I think you're going to get a little bit more of a bigger look from Luis Angel Acuna this year, whether you're going to talk about actual second baseman as compared to Jett Williams. I'm not really big on either of them as for Jett and Acuna, so it's not really just my style of player that I would like to just completely plug in here, and I feel like he would help us win. I think that there is a strong possibility where you see quite a few guys at the top of this prospect list get their shot, obviously, to make the team a little bit younger. You're going to see him showcased in spring training, but I think that the earliest you're going to see him is 2025. It seems like he does have the ETA of 2026, obviously with him being drafted as 17 years old, 18 years old, so just being a little bit younger. So I don't know. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Jeff McNeil either. I would like my second baseman to have power. I'd like every single position to have power, and it just doesn't seem like Jett Williams. I don't see how that swing adjusts to major league pitching, in my opinion. I just don't think he has the bat speed whatsoever. All I'm seeing is a Nick Madrigal swing from him. But you know what? Everyone seems to like him. So that should work, right? I just don't like the frame. I did not like taking him in the first round. But you know what? I'm here to be proven wrong. Sure. Don't care. I'm not seeing this guy as a savior. I'm not seeing this guy as somebody you can just plug in right now. And I hate plugging in prospects. They need to prove it first to get the job. The only prospect right now that has proven it and taken the job and ran with it is obviously Francisco Alvarez from top to bottom. I'm not looking forward to the Jett Williams. I'm not hyping it up whatsoever. People comparing him to Jose Altuve, that's like kind of just, that's like a ridiculous anomaly comparison, which I can't fathom of how stupid it is to listen to have people say that he's Jose Altuve, because that is a one-of-a-kind type of small player who has power, and he developed that power over time. You never really see, this type of size, this type of frame. The anomaly comparisons are absolutely ridiculous. That's basically just like saying, this guy, he's Mike Trout because he's got all these tools and he's got all of this, that. Like, it's just, he's a small second baseman. He has a small frame. I'm not expecting much from him at the major league level. I just don't think he adjusts the best, but you know what? I've been proven wrong before, but I don't know. I see this guy just batting ninth in our lineup if he were to come up today.
I still think for Acuna, they might want to consider putting him in the outfield. And I think that's more so just because of the way this team is structured, like we've talked about. The outfield definitely got some help with that Houston trade, but overall it has been one of the weak points of this farm system. So I would also experiment with Acuna in the outfield if you are going to have these other infielders. If McNeil does turn around, if you do have Mauricio in the infield, Beatty in the infield, Lindor in the infield, it does get pretty crowded. I think someone with that athleticism, obviously his brother's an outfielder, so I wouldn't rule that out completely.
Yeah, I mean, if his brother can play outfield, that means that he can play outfield too, right? I mean,